Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Just one comment to get to. Then I'm going to get into the Gaza bullshit stuff. Desktop. It downloads. Desktop. I got to find the comments on desktop. Should have done this ahead of time. Hopefully, this is the comment. Um, well, I guess two comments I want to get to. Somebody writes, I wonder if the guru could curse someone they haven't met or someone that hasn't been born in their lifetime. So the curse is, I was talking about this in the Mahabharata. The curses, without the curses, there's no Mahabharata. Like, there's no story. The curses drive the drama. And there's one guy who's going around. He's like some guy who's lived thousands of years. He's just kind of grumpy, and he just curses at people. And it's like he goes fucking nuclear with his curses. They seem very unfair. But the first master of the Sajmark system said that curses only work if the person has some skaras for that curse, right? So if someone cursed you and says, "I hope you commit suicide" or something, it would only work if you had that in you. Like you were that's part of your eventual destiny. The only thing they can do is pull something from you that's already exists. And so in a way, they're kind of doing you a favor because you got this thing that you're going to have to experience at some point in your life or some future life, and they're pulling it out of you. Like and they're not doing it for that reason. I mean, whatever is happening, but it's part of the story, right? It's also part of what's supposed to happen. Like the curses are part of the divine drama that's got to play out. It's part of the script, and so there's that. So they're not really curses in that sense. They could be anything, right? But Chargy did talk about the power of suggestion quite a bit in the preceptor books, and that we should be very aware of the suggestions we give to ourselves and other people. Our thoughts have consequences. Our words and things have consequences in terms of the ideas, right? And if you put ideas in people's heads, then it can be kind of like self-fulfilling prophecy. So that could be a curse in some sort of way. But, in terms of the curses, they're not, if you don't have the thing inside you, it's not going to work. Like it isn't part of your internal makeup. So the reason I read that comment was this is the comment I wanted to read. Paul, how do some scars affect and affect or relate to those that first time soul incarnations? Um, so I want to kind of explain some scars. Some scars are impressions that you have that can be carried over from a past life, but they're also things that are necessary for this life, right? So some scars shouldn't be looked at as being necessarily bad. There are things in your life that form an impression. And so there are things in your life that you experience and you don't form any sort of impression with. And anything that you do in the thought of God, if you have a thought that God is experiencing this with you, you're doing something and you bring God into it, and you have this, what they call constant remembrance in the Sajmark system, remembrance of God. You don't form samskaras like these impressions, but you do need some of these samskaras to keep you here on planet Earth. A person with no samskaras dies. A person who doesn't have any samskaras is their soul just leaves their body. There's no reason for you to be here. Like these samskaras are also the story of your life. So there are natural samskaras that you have, say, to be married, to have kids, to have a job, things that you're going to have to produce in life that aren't really bad, right? Your career, something that that your soul wants you to experience, right? So you have a samskaric package when you come into life, and it's about the experiences that you're going to have, the events in your life and your tendencies as a person, right? And, some of your samskaras is you're going to be born as a man and a woman. You're going to be born as a certain race in a certain country. You're going to be tall, what you're going to look like. You're going to be short. You're going to be, these are part of your samskaric package. What you look like, what your attributes are. And so, your soul has this, it's part of like your soul's script. Your soul wants you to experience these things. Like some of these things you would have to experience because you didn't resolve them in a past life. But if somebody is a first life as a soul, where they come from before, where they were an animal, right? Are they moving up the evolutionary chain? The transmigration of soul, where you were a dog in a past life, and now you've evolved enough as a dog to where you can become a human being. Like that's part of it. Like there's some past, right? Your soul was something before. Was your soul, never in a human life before? You're a higher developed soul, and so then it would be just what you're here for. Like a higher developed soul that doesn't have to be here comes down for a specific purpose, does God's work, and then leaves and wants to leave. Master Charge, you said there are souls that came down that did their work, and they were conscious of that this was their soul's work. They were aware. They had higher levels of consciousness and awareness, and they would just hold their breath until they died and leave their body. Like not suicide, like their ability. I mean, who can hold their breath until they die, right? Like this is the kind of discipline they had. But they came down for a specific purpose to do God's work, and then their life was over and they just leave, right? Their bodies, they would just leave their bodies. I mean, holding their breath is maybe just one option of just, it's over. There's no reason for you to be here anymore. But there was a few other things about it. Like there was, in the teaching of the Sajmark system, Babaji's samskaras were cleaned, like all of his samskaras, but he was, the work that he had to do for his abhyasis, the people that were here, he would have some of their samskaras. Like there would be this sort of collective random samskaras that would be there from all the people that he was working on cleaning and things like this to keep his soul from leaving, right? Because you need some of this. Your samskaras are, again, your story of your life. It's who you are and what your script is, what your soul plan is. And so, and then there's things that you've done in the past life that have to be cleaned off because you haven't resolved them. And any kind of trauma, anything that leaves a deep impression, you're going to be pulled back into life and have to relive that or in some capacity. Like that's the downside of it, right? And so the first master of the system, he didn't have cleaning. There was no cleaning of samskaras, wasn't part of what he did with his 200 people that would come to his house, and he would transmit to them. And there was no method that exists now, the Sajmark method, where there's cleaning and transmission and these sittings and things and preceptors. There's none of that. Like the preceptors were, like he started that eventually, but it was just transmission. But Babaji found that people were so gross, and gross is, like a kind word, but also, it became problematic. So he developed cleaning so that there would be this deep cleaning of these samskaras so that a person could experience God, because there was so much, multiple lives. People had lived multiple lives, bad lives, sometimes long lives. People used to live hundreds of years, thousands of years in some cases. And if they were living a shitty life, then they would have all these samskaras and they'd be heavy and dense. And so the person wasn't able to find and connect the divinity within them because there was just too much grossness. But Babaji had realized that because of the cleaning and all this talk about cleaning, people were obsessed with it. And they started looking at themselves as gross. Clean me, clean me. And Babaji said, there's a contagium of grossness that existed in the mission. He said, it's my fault for talking about it, because now everybody's thinking about grossness and thinking of themselves as gross, and that created more grossness. That created more samskaras, more impressions. And so, where in Christianity, this idea that you're a born sinner, it's a bad suggestion. And that's all you are, right? You're also a soul. And Sajmarg was supposed to be you thinking about your soul and connecting to your soul. And that whatever was blocking that would just be, you don't focus on that. You don't think about samskaras. Like people think too much about their samskaras, and it becomes a fucking thing, right? It became, where they were focused on the lower, and they're just creating more grossness. And they're, instead of doing what they're supposed to do and evolve and look to their higher nature and embrace their higher nature, and just with the idea, anything that's blocking my higher nature needs to be removed, and either through experience or through cleaning. But don't focus on it. Don't look at it. Don't dwell on it. Don't think about it. People were thinking of doing their cleaning and trying to remember their impressions of some scars and trying to look at them. It's like being obsessed with the filth instead of, you just clean what's there, and with not an obsessive compulsive way, that you're obsessed with the dirt, you're obsessed with the negativity, right? Like you have a soul, and you're going to fuck up and make mistakes, and you've got issues, but you have divine essence, and through the process of life, you're learning to embrace that divine essence and your higher nature, and minimize your lower self-centered nature of your ego. And it's just it should flow in some way where you're just not like taking it too seriously, right? Living in a light way, which is a beautiful thing, but unfortunately, that's not what happened. People became obsessed with the grossness aspect of it, and thinking of themselves as gross, and it's just not a. I mean, you have both things, right? You have your divine nature, and then you have your own creation as an ego that has to be purified at some level. There's a time that the third master Charji came, and Babaji said that he saw some grossness, and Charji kind of got pissed and said, I've lived a very disciplined life. I'm not creating any grossness. Babaji asked him, are you doing your cleaning? And Charji said, no. And Babaji said, why? And Charji said, I don't see anything to clean, right? And, Babaji says, oh, I'm very happy with that, right? So, like that attitude. But this other time, Charji came to him, and Babaji goes, oh, I have clean, there's something that has to be clean. And Charji got upset and said, I'm living 100% in constant remembrance, and I'm not making anything happen. And Babaji said, and looked at it and said, oh, you're inheriting some grossness from your dad, like through this relationship, which is another thing, right? So, like his dad was passing on his grossness to him that had to be cleaned out and whatever it was. So, it's helpful in the sense that when you're going through something or you have tendencies, you realize that if you work to correct those tendencies and resist the temptation to indulge in those, like your addiction, like if you feel like the need to be addicted to things and you have addictive tendencies, that you learn to discipline that, and you learn to resist it, and focus on something else, and use the system, the cleaning and the transmission and the practice to resist that. Like not that you're focused on resistance is a bad word, is that you do your best to forget about that. You don't pay attention to it, and you focus on the higher nature, and you focus on the good qualities and the good the tools that you have in the system, and you learn to discipline your mind so that you don't get sucked into these types of tendencies. And so you're breaking these patterns, because the samskaras can be clean, but you also have the mental habits and the memories that you have to resist, right? When something's bad for you and you realize it's bad for you, but you keep on coming back to it. And even when you think about it, when you don't even interact with it, but you dwell on it, you're creating an attachment, right? You're creating something that has to be removed later on, something that's not appropriate for you, something that's not good for you, something that hurts you, people that hurt you, whatever it is. People who are bad for you and that you have some sort of connection with, and that you realize that this is a samskara, and that if you go through enough cleaning and you discipline your mind enough, and you focus on other things, that this pattern will be broken, and then you won't have to deal with it again in a future existence. And so with that, somebody wrote me an email, which I want to say, I was going to respond to the email, but I might as well just say this in case other people have a similar issue. I apologize for emailing you. I know you're busy. You are. I don't comment too much or say anything inappropriate, but I've commented a few times on Pockets' channel. I notice my comments disappear. I don't comment on any other channels, but tested it on another and had no problem. Is it something YouTube shenanigans, or if you kindly suggesting I leave? If this is a YouTube thing, I apologize for taking your time. I'm not sure if the person's email title is who they are on my channel, but, I only ban people. I don't delete comments. YouTube deletes comments for whatever reason. They end up in the spam. So I have no idea. Like, unless if you said something critical or said something that I ban you for, then that might be the case. Occasionally, I've banned people by accident, but also YouTube sometimes just shadow bans, that they just take people's comments and hide them. And I have a whole folder of comments that I have to approve, and I never get to it because I don't have time for that, and I'm not aware of it. But there's like hundreds of comments in there that YouTube just puts there, and they're not inappropriate at all. Like, I don't know why, like, most of them, and they're not even truther comments. There's no, I mean, if they were something with truth, you say, okay, YouTube's algorithms are banning this stuff. But sometimes they're just very benign comments. Sometimes they're just an emoji, and YouTube bans them, and it's a weird thing. So, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what the thing is. I'd have to know your name and have to look it up on the shadow ban list. And, like, you'd have to, there'd have to be something that you said, or I accidentally hit the wrong person, which has happened infrequently, that I would ban somebody without them really doing anything wrong. But, if the comments are there, it's either that you've been banned or that YouTube's doing it, or the comments are there, you just can't see them. I don't know. Like, it's not an exact science because, YouTube comment section is kind of weird. I ban people specifically for being critical or leaving a hostile comment or any number of things like that. Anything that's said that's like racist or something that's going to be a problem for the channel. Anything that's not, I mean, I make it kind of clear about what people can say or not say. I don't care if people voice their own opinion, but when they like want to argue with me or tell me I'm wrong or these kind of things, because it's going to be an ongoing thing, right? It's just going to be, if I don't ban you today, I'll ban you. It's going to be, it's like somebody nagging at you, right? It's just no need for it. And I make that clear. I don't have a complaint department. Like, you don't have to listen, but I'm not debating anybody or arguing with anybody. And half the time when somebody leaves a comment, I've already forgotten what I've talked about. Like, I don't care about it. So it's like, but you're butthurt or upset about it, and, you have something negative to say. Yeah, I'm just not interested. I'm not here for that. Like, everyone thinks that it's their God-given right to critique what everyone else says or does on the internet, and it has no purpose. People aren't going to change. You're just verbalizing, you're just dumping your anger and your whatever on other people. And so, like, that's why I ban people, because if it isn't today, it's going to be tomorrow. The person's like, once somebody gets a negative attitude towards you, and then they're just watching the videos to tell you how bad you suck, and it's like, I'm not here for that. I'm like, just move on, right? You don't enjoy what I'm saying, or it's not helping you, then why would you stay? Like, you're not doing me a favor, right? So you're just wasting your time to be angry or frustrated or whatever it is. And so if that isn't the case, if you didn't leave any kind of comment like that, then there would be no reason for me to ban you. And then then it would be some of these other things. But I can't, like, again, there's so many people. I often don't look at the person's name. I don't know who they are. I mean, occasionally, if it's somebody that comments a lot, like, I give them the benefit of the doubt that maybe I don't understand the comment. A lot of times comments aren't written very clearly, and so people don't take time to edit them and make give it proper punctuation. And oftentimes you really can't understand what the person's trying to say in the comments. Like, the comments are not high quality. And so if somebody who comments a lot is a longtime viewer, I'll be like, maybe I misunderstand the comment and I'm not, going to ban them. But unless, they've gone south, which happens too. Sometimes people watch videos for a long time and they get pissed off by something. But if you're a Trumper and you said something because you got butthurt, then you're probably banned, right? So, I mean, again, it's not that you have the right to verbalize your opinion. It's just that I don't need to know about it. You're just wasting my time. It's not going to affect me or the content. And so I'm not here, I'm not looking for your feedback if it's negative or whatever it is. People can say, the videos are helping them because, that is encouraging me to do more work, right? And so, I mean, it's if you're complaining, then why did you watch why you just stop watching the videos? Like, complaining is, the idea is that you're wanting me to change specifically for you, or whatever it is, like whatever your reasoning is for it, it's not effective. Anyways, let's get into the Trump stuff. I was closing out of the email and I saw that the person left a second message, which was confusing when I first opened it. But what the person was saying is that I say, I don't want you here. And that person was taking it like I didn't want them here at my channel. And when I'm saying that is if a person says my content sucks, then I don't want them here, right? Like, why would you watch? Like, why would you watch content just to hate on it? I critique things and I make fun of people, mock people, but it's very specific to one thing, and that is that it's not directed at them. It's to use them as an example. And I should make this distinction here because the problem I have with all of it, and the problem I have with and I don't want to say a problem, my feeling that something is deeply flawed. Right now, humanity's flaws are everybody's looking at somebody else or something else to change. Everybody's looking at the opposite group of people or individual people and saying, oh, you suck, you have to change. We got to make them change, they're the problem. And nobody's looking to change themselves. Like, you're here to change yourself. And this is what I'm talking about, samskaras. If you embrace your samskaras and you don't look at your samskaras as these whatever your life tendencies are, that are a reflection of your samskaras, the patterns of your existence, and see that you're flawed and you need to change, you're failing your soul, you're failing at your life, right? You have things that you have to change and evolve. You have to make changes internally. Everybody does. Like, that's why we're here. Each person. Doesn't matter how sucky everybody else is. That's not about you. You can change. You can become a saint. You can become your best version of yourself, right? Each person has that opportunity. There's people who have done that. It's a handful of people. Almost nobody reaches that level, but at least some people reach some, benefit in some way and change in some way and evolve in some way. There are people that do that. But, the majority of people, all these news people, all these people that are whatever part of the politicians and Hollywood celebrities, they're all promoting this distraction, this matrix, this illusion to keep you from doing what you need to do personally, like getting sucked into the matrix. And now, of course, with the internet, it's like Matrix on steroids, getting sucked into this illusionary world and focusing on something other than yourself and your not focus on yourself selfishly, but focusing on your need to change and your need to evolve and your need to get better. Like, that's everything that I say here. Does any of these people say to you, you need to change, right? That I need to change and you need to change, that's the problem? It isn't Trump, it isn't Biden, it isn't any number of these institutions, it isn't the evil corporations, it isn't the controllers, none of these things. Like, you have the ability to change and get rid of your the whatever baggage, grossness that you have inside of you. And that's what each person's responsible for, right? So, that's my underlying message. These things that I say about these people, although they're truthful, I don't give a shit about them. They're running the country into the ground, but the country should be run into the ground. As far as I can tell, Trump is doing God's work by destroying a system that's, taking us all in the wrong direction. And so, I critique these things and talk about them in terms of the show, and people are interested in those things. But my underlying issue here is that each person is responsible to change themselves. And you can't wait for the bad people to change. Like, it's silly. You're waiting for people worse than you. People are weaker than you. People are more addicted than you, more grosser than you, who are lost, who are psychologically fucked up more than you are. And you're waiting for them to change? Like, why would you think that would work? You think the worst of us is going to be able to change themselves when the best people, the higher developed souls, the people who are, who are curious and, who want, have some ability or some inclinations towards spiritual connection to God and wanting to learn and seek the truth, right? And so, there's this dishonest illusion that we've created that keeps people away from doing what they're supposed to do, which is their own personal growth and development and finding their soul's path and doing what their soul wants them to do. So when a person writes a negative comment or a corrective comment or a hostile comment or a critiquing comment, I say, I don't want you here. Like, you're not doing this for me. You're not benefiting me. Don't think this is, when they're a concern troll and they're making it like they're trying to help me or whatever, it's not helpful. Now, let's say I misspell a word in the title. Sometimes I just don't double check my titles, and I have spell check in various places. It's just, I'm worn out by the time I'm just over the video by the time I'm done with it. And so the title often suffers. I'm dyslexic. And so if somebody, my wife does this, if somebody says, oh, you misspelled this word, it's very helpful. Because I don't want the title to be fucking illegible. That's something I can correct. I can fix the title. And so, I make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. It's not about me being perfect or me not being, flawed in some way. It has nothing to do with any of that. Like, I'm aware of my flaws, aware that I have to change. It's not like I don't know that, in some ways, we're all divine beings, but we're all pieces of shit. And, I've talked about this extensively. But people have a need to tell other people they suck. And it's a fucked up thing. It's a weird thing to want to do, like telling other people they suck, right? And so, like, that's what I'm commenting on. Like, if you have some desire to tell me I suck, then go somewhere else. Like, I don't need to hear it from you. It's not helpful for me. And it's, you're living a lie yourself. You're not dealing with your own bullshit, right? You're trying to blame me for your whatever evil and whatever negativity's inside of you, and you're looking for something outside to focus that shit on, and it's not me. Like, get out of here. I don't want you here. That's what I mean by that, right? Like, if you disagree with me, fine. Like, I'm not expecting you to agree with everything that I have to say. And, if people listen to me, which they don't, like, all of them would be doing gratefulness meditation, or at least try it, right? Majority of people, even people who like what I have to say and listen to what I have to say and feel the energy in the videos and realize it's beneficial, they will never try gratefulness meditation. And that's okay. Like, I don't, care about any of that. I mean, I have to have an audience. Otherwise, I'm just talking to myself. So I'm grateful for an audience. I believe I'm doing God's work here. And that, I'm grateful to have people here. It's not that I don't want people here. But I'm socially, whatever. I'm not socially great. And so, I mean, I'm not a networker. I'm not going to, butter people up and try to, win you over by false praise or whatever it is to get people to watch, the videos. Like, there has to be something of value to you in the videos. Otherwise, why would you be here? If you don't feel like there's something worthwhile here, then you should go, right? That's what I mean by that stuff. But the rules are very simple. Don't drop your negativity or your hostility or your anger or your frustration on me. Like, I'm not here for that. Like, I'm not your whipping boy. This is what people want to do. They have their inner venom, their inner whatever it is, their anger and their hatred, and they want to slap somebody with it. They want to tag somebody with it in a comment or whatever it is. They have their own their anger and their hatred and the negativity that's inside them, and they want to put it on somebody else. And no thanks, right? Go somewhere else and do that shit, right? Go do some of that where somebody wants that shit. I don't, and I've made it very clear. Anyways, let's get into the other stuff here. Let's get back into this. I covered this a little bit about terrorists, but a lot of this is about Israel and Iran and World War III. Two things are going on here. This weird relationship and all these things. So let's start over here. So I went outside with my dogs and went for a walk, and we got freezing warnings last night. I was watching the championship basketball game, which I don't always watch, but I watched the NCAA tournament a little bit more this year. And there was warnings for frost, freezing, because people do farming and gardening. And we had this plum tree, my wife ordered 3 or 4 years ago, and we haven't never gotten any plums off of it. We didn't even know what it was. I went to look at we still have the tags on it, right? And it's one of these trees it's been grafted, so it has a variety of different types of plums on it. And it had these wonderful flowers, like I would say 1,000 flowers on a small tree. And, you have to get rid of some of you have to, if you've let all those things turn into plums, they'll be small, right? So you have to get rid of some of them. Like in every fruit tree, you're supposed to prune it. And we usually don't get around to doing that, but in, post-apocalyptic situation, we would, right? We get better at all that stuff. But there was a frost, and we're probably not going to get any of them. Like sometimes we have this wonderful peach tree, and we have this wonderful apricot, but we often get a late frost, which sucks, and then we don't get any of these things. We also have a peach tree we just planted, We have one that the former owner of this house planted. You know, there was already some fruit trees on here. But, you know, that just sucks, right? And this happens every year. We get a late April, spring's already begun and we get these cold days. Anyways, let's get into this here. So here they are. Well, look at these two fucking dopes. These are guys deciding the future of the world, right? You know, they're red tie wearing motherfuckers. They go inside there. There's, I wonder what that guy's thinking. So, there's the Israeli flag and the American flag.
Thank you, Don. Thank you. Mr. President, I want to first thank you for inviting me again to the White House. You've been a remarkable friend of the State of Israel.
Okay, this has background noise. I'm going to see if I can find another one. Okay, so most of them start with Trump talking. They don't have this part right here. But they all have a little bit of a background noise. It's just, I don't understand.
Opportunity to talk today about many subjects. First, if I can mention tariffs, it's a subject of some interest today. I can tell you that...
Let's go back to the beginning here.
You stand by us. You're standing with us. You are a great, great champion of our alliance. And you actually do the things that you say you do. And I think that people respect that enormously.
Except when they're batshit crazy. He does do that. He says things and he does things. But sometimes he says things and doesn't do things. So it's not all the time. And sometimes he says things that are fucked up and then he does them. Right?
Certainly do, and the people of Israel do, and I think the Jewish people do as well. We just saw your representative in the Department of Justice fighting anti-Semitism, standing up for Israel in international forums. I just want you to know from the heart, it's deeply, deeply appreciated. As you said, we had the opportunity to talk today about many subjects. First, if I can mention tariffs, it's a subject of some interest today. I can tell you that I said to the President a very simple thing. We will eliminate the trade deficit with the United States. We intend to do it very quickly. We think it's the right thing to do. And we're going to also eliminate trade barriers.
See, he's given Trump something here, right? Because Trump's given Israel everything. And so he's given Trump here something. So Trump can say, look, my tariffs are working. Right? So, this is what Trump says he wants to get out of the tariffs to get rid of the trade deficit, but it can't happen because, there's so many reasons which we discussed in the previous videos. But he's given this to Trump because he, everything else Trump's giving him, which is a blank check. No other president, he says, the greatest friend of Israel in the White House ever. So he's covering Trump here. He's giving Trump something that the other countries aren't gonna. But Trump can now say, look, my tariffs are working, right?
A variety of trade barriers that have been put up unnecessarily. And I think Israel can serve as a model for many countries who ought to do the same.
See? I didn't know that was coming, but that's,
Recognize the position of the United States. It says, we're allowing other countries to put tariffs on us, but we don't put tariffs on them. And, I'm a free trade champion, and free trade has to be fair trade. And I think that's basically the position that you have put forward, Mr. President. We are going to eliminate the tariffs, and rapidly.
I don't know why Israel would even have a trade deficit because we give and sell them so many things like weapons. I mean, they get a lot from the United States. It's a very small country. And a lot of it comes from the United States, like this, certainly some of the things are given, right? But also, whatever they might purchase. So I'm kind of shocked that there's any kind of a trade deficit. It's probably almost non-existent. It'll be easy for them to get rid of that.
The opportunity to speak to Secretary Lutnick yesterday. We talked about how we could affect this quickly, and I hope to bring the solution very quickly. We're not talking about intentions. We're not talking about just words. We're talking about results. And those results are going to come. That's the first.
Thank you very much. It's very nice.
Thank you.
That's very nice. Thank you. That's very nice of you to give me what I want.
Mr. President, what about the hostages here?
Well, I didn't,
Let him
didn't
finish.
finish.
Okay.
Didn't begin. We spoke about not only the hostages, but about Gaza. The hostages obviously is a human story of just unbearable agony. I speak to the families. I spoke to them yesterday. Spoke to another one when I was in Hungary before I came here. I speak to them every day. They're in agony. The hostages are in agony, and we want to get them all out. Steve Witkoff, President Trump's very able representative, helped us get a deal that got 25 out. We're working now on another deal that we hope will succeed. And we're committed to getting all the hostages out, but also eliminating the evil tyranny of Hamas in Gaza. And
You know, like the story is so fucked up, right? Because I believe Hamas is an Israeli asset. It's the only thing that makes sense to me. Again, the evidence is there in terms of motivation, like why people would do something that they're doing. So Hamas's actions has caused most of the all the Palestinian deaths and all of this assault that's happening from Israel, right? And so why would Hamas do that? They're not hurting Israel. Like, Israel wants to annex the Gaza Strip. And Israel wants the Gaza Strip, right? They want land expansions. They want it. Like, everyone knows it, right? I show you that chart all the time, the whole thing that, the promised land. Israel thinks this is their land. Based in, these are Zionists. That's what they believe. It's not just the Gaza Strip, but it's all these other countries. I'll go back to that when I get a chance to break free from this clip here. And I show it all the time. You guys know what it is, right? It's all these countries. It's like 7 countries where the original Israel is supposed to be. And so the Gaza Strip is rich with resources, and it's a beachfront, beautiful oceanfront property that Trump recognized. And we'll play that clip again from Trump. He wants to build it into some resort area. But also there's oil and natural gas off the shore. They have resources, so it's an amazing place to have. And they want the Palestinian people out, and they want to take that over. And so they're doing that now, and Trump's suggesting that based in what Hamas did. So these things that Hamas did and is doing are the reason, I always talk about how no weaker country wants to fight a stronger country, right? Like if the Ukraine didn't have the backing of America and these things, and they didn't have warmongers there, whatever that was they wanted to break Russia, whatever was going on there, they miscalculated. But nobody wants to fight somebody or something that's going to kick your ass, right? Like, no one's going up to a lion and punching them in the fucking face, or a bear, or a fucking, elephant or something, or bull or something, like some big, and even small animals. Like, you don't stick your hand in a fucking beehive because you don't want to get stung, right? There's deterrence. Animals have, leverage with their teeth and their claws and, like humans do, right? And so there's things that, that people have are deterrents from you doing things, right? That are there for defense and protection and things. And so, you don't want to fucking suffer and get hurt and get your ass kicked. And so why would Hamas do this when they knew Israel wants this? I mean, they're doing something that Israel wants. And so, with that in mind, then I can only assume that Hamas is working with Israel so that Israel can do its bidding, and that this is all bullshit, right? False flag type stuff. Because nothing else makes sense to me. Nothing, and they've done this before, false flag things. They want land. They have tried to encroach on land. They have been building settlements in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank that are Palestinian lands. And you can see from the maps that Israel is growing and Palestine is shrinking. And so, it's complete bullshit. And so when you start off from that as your baseline, this fake victim consciousness story where Hamas is abusing you and your hostages when they're more than likely an asset, which there's no other reasonable explanation for it. And then you're going to annex this land, and that's what they're talking about here.
enabling the people of Gaza to freely make a choice, to go wherever they want. I mean, they should have that choice. And the president put forward a vision, a bold vision.
They should have that choice like that. They don't have that choice. Nobody has that choice. every country has visas and an immigration policy. And so, first of all, you need the money to move. So at the very least, you need plane tickets. But imagine getting off in America where you may or may not speak the language, or, Europe or any other country that you'd like to go to. Getting a plane ticket and then having to go through the immigration process and the naturalization process to become a citizen with no money. Imagine if you just today were out on the streets, a homeless person with only the clothes on your back. Like, what would you do? Like, if you didn't have a house, apartment, you didn't have a job, you didn't have family, you didn't have anybody, support system. You're in a foreign country, you have to boot. And you also have to go through immigration on top of that. And so they can't go wherever they want. Like, they have to be wanted by people. And they're not. They're not wanted by any other country. People don't want these immigrants that are having to flee from the Middle East because of the fucking wars, the people from Syria and these other places. And so they're making it sound like the people of the Gaza Strip are just wanting to leave, and that's their homeland, and they're boxed in. I mean, this is what they're saying here.
Vision, which we discussed as well, including the countries that might be amenable and are amenable to accepting Palestinians of their free choice if they choose to go there. And I think that's second.
After we've bombed the shit out of them and killed their kids and destroyed their homes, and they're living with no functioning resources, no water, no food, no internet, no electricity. But if they want to leave, hey, hey, you should be able to go. If somebody actually wants them, hey, what am I to do? Who am I to stop them? I mean, I guess we'll take over the place if they all decide to leave. I guess we'll do something if they choose to do so.
Second thing that we discussed, but the hostages came right on top. We also discussed the situation in Syria. We've had.
They murdered Assad, right? They just murdered the leader there, did regime change.
Neighborly relations with Turkey that have deteriorated, and we don't want to see Syria being used by anyone, including Turkey, as a base for attack in Israel. Turkey is a country that...
I just don't want to know why all these countries hate us. They're always trying to get us. I don't even know. I have no idea why. Why would they do that?
Has a great relationship with the United States. The president has a relationship with the leader of Turkey. We discussed how we can avoid this conflict in a variety of ways, and I think we can't have a better interlocutor than the president of the United States for this purpose. And of course, we also discussed Iran. Look, we're both united in the goal that Iran does not ever get nuclear weapons. If it could be done diplomatically in a full way, the way it was done in Libya, I think that would be a good thing.
Look at what happened to Libya. Like, Libya gave up their nuclear weapons. What happened to Gaddafi? Gaddafi gave up all weapons of mass destruction and did all the right things. He was on pace to achieve the Millennium Development Goals from the UN, and the UN had ordered the countries to go in and destroy Gaddafi and the country on bullshit allegations that the British Parliament came up with they wrote up what happened there, and they condemned what happened, saying that it was all bullshit. And they just destroyed him and did regime change for no reason. A guy who was popular with his people, he had 70% approval rating. Libya was growing and developing, and they fucked it, right? And so, where were you then? Like, when the U.S. and France and these other countries from UN Security Council, whatever it was, NATO, went in there and beat the shit out of the Libyan army and Gaddafi and killed him. Sodomized him with a sword when Hillary Clinton said that he should come out and will take a surrender. And when he did that, these ISIS fucking people that the Obama administration brought down to Libya to go in there and act as rebels and to undermine the government there. And now the government's fucked. The whole place is fucked, right? Is that what you're talking about?
But whatever happens, we have to make sure that Iran does not have nuclear weapons. That's the end of my speech.
Mr. President,
let's go to this other thing I have here. All right, so I've watched some of this, so I know it's coming. So here's Israel, right? Now, Israel's surrounded by Egypt, which is hostile to Israel because of Muslim people. It's the Saudi Arabia's right here, right, close to being a border country. They're more friendly with Israel, but they're also, you know, Muslim people, and the Muslim people are hostile towards Jewish people. You know, they have beef. Jordan is people for are you know, hostile towards Israel. I mean, not as much as some of these other countries, but they're also Muslim. And then you have Syria and Lebanon. So Israel's surrounded by all Muslim nations. Many of them have, you know, pretty good armies, and they don't like Jews, and the Jews don't like them, and they've had beef for 3,000 years or more, right? At least 3,000 years. Well, whenever the children of Abraham, right? His bastard son by a Arab maid, and his miracle son Ishmael by his maid, and Isaac. Is it Isaac? I don't fucking know. Whatever his name is. The one that he was supposed to sacrifice, God made him sacrifice his miracle kid, and then God said, "Just kidding, kill this goat instead, or this sheep instead." Right. So that's, you know, Israel's position, because they're going to say the same thing about Gaza Strip. And this is greater Israel. Like, this is the promised land. So every Zionist believes that they're entitled to beachfront property in Egypt, beachfront property in Saudi Arabia, all of what's that country that was Jordan, a good portion of Iraq, and most of Syria, and a little bit of Turkey, and all of Lebanon. And so even a little bit of Iran here, and now beachfront property, which they don't have over here. I mean, it's over half of Iraq, and then this little bit of land here by the Persian Gulf. So they'd have access to this body of water, and they'd have an access to this body of water. This is all beachfront property. And, of course, the Mediterranean Sea and Gaza. And so this is what Israel thinks is theirs, promised to them by God. At least the Zionists who believe in this. And many Christians who are also Zionists believe in this too, right? And so, like, that should be kept in mind, because, you know, this is their promised land. This is what God promised to them. God can't promise shit. It's not true. But that's what they believe.
We're
having direct talks with. Wait. We're having direct talks with Iran, and they've started. It'll go on Saturday. We have a very big meeting, and we'll see what can happen. And I think everybody agrees that doing a deal would be preferable to doing the obvious. And the obvious is not something that
war, which is war. So, besides this nightmare tariff thing he's doing, he's now openly talking about this negotiation he's going to have with Iran, and either they give up their nuclear weapons, and why the fuck would they? Their program, because they're going to fucking need them. And war with Iran is war with Russia, because they have an alliance. And so Russia has to protect Iran. And so if they go in and have war with Iran, which Israel, of course, wants, and what Israel wants, Trump gives them, especially now after Netanyahu's given Trump what he wants, there's going to be war with Iran. Like, you're going to hear this questioner later on basically say that you're going to have to go in war with Iran, a reporter. And Trump is hinting at that. So whether that's a bluff to get Iran to give up their nuclear weapons program, or, you know, whatever it is, if Iran says, fuck you, we're not going to do that, then Trump is on the hook for war, right? We're on the hook for war. And this is the World War III thing that's, you know, just hanging out there, right? Just waiting to happen.
I want to be involved with, or frankly, that Israel wants to be involved with, if they can avoid it. So we're going to see if we can avoid it. But it's
the obvious, which is war.
Getting to be very dangerous territory. And hopefully those talks will be successful. And I think it would be in Iran's best interest if they are successful. We hope that's going to happen. And we had just a lot of good talks on a lot of things. I appreciate very much what you said about the tariffs. We've been ripped off and taken advantage of by many countries over the years.
Okay, so I already showed you this part. Let's go to the next part to do with Iran. Okay, let's get back to this here.
Thank you for the chance. Many of Palestinian Americans who voted for you and not for Biden because you've promised them to end the war in Gaza.
Very honored by that vote, too.
The war is still going on and there's no hostage deal. Do you have any update on that?
Well, I'd like
Okay, so it was stupid for the Palestinian people to vote for Trump. I mean, they didn't like what Biden was doing, but Trump had already was licking Netanyahu's balls. I mean, we already knew what Trump was going to do, right? And fucking, like he was going to be worse. And Kennedy is even worse than Trump. RFK Jr., who's, he's got a whole fluoride thing, which is a good thing happening, which I'll cover tomorrow. But Jesus Christ, why would you think that Trump was going to be better at all the stuff he did and said? That, Netanyahu said he was Israel's greatest friend, and he made it clear on the campaign trail that he was going to go ballistic on the Gaza, so-called Hamas holes.
like to see the war stop, and I think the war will stop at some point that won't be in the too distant future. Right now we have a problem with hostages. We're trying to get the hostages out. We got quite a few of them out, but it's a long process. It shouldn't be that long. We have a big problem that we've done. I think I'll ask Pete to maybe talk about it for a second, because a lot of people are asking the Houthis. We've been very tough and very successful militarily.
We looked at Pete Hegseth. That Houthi thing died, right? I mean, that was a major scandal. They leaked classified information. It was, should have been undermining the confidence of the troops. I mean, bad shit, right? And remember I said in a week it'll disappear, and it's more than disappeared. There's been 3 other stories since then. Every day it's fucking something, right? And now today he's dealing with Iran negotiations. If that doesn't go well, you're going to be in World War III. I mean, he's saying, if they don't give up their nuclear program, they're gonna go in and start World War III. They're gonna invade Iran, and that's gonna cause the Russians to. So it's over then, right?
We've really damaged them badly. These were people shooting down ships and other things.
Shooting down ships. They were flying ships.
Way.
Called planes.
Flying objects like airplanes, and we've put a major hurt on the Houthis, which
you hurt those Houthis. Put a hurt on the Houthis.
Nobody's been able to do. We've really hit them hard, and they know it, and they don't know.
They know they've been hit hard.
What to do, and it's every night, night after night, and we've got.
They're bombing innocent civilians. They're blowing up buildings. I mean, there's no fucking regard for human life. I mean, they're fucking so bad. Where other people had to answer for that shit. He's just doing it, and this is what he didn't do this his first term, and I applauded him for it. He didn't promote these bullshit wars, but now he is, especially to do with Israel and all that shit,
And many of their leaders and their experts, they're experts on missiles. I mean, they actually make missiles. Nobody thought that.
Nobody thought that. No one knew the Houthis. The Houthis were so fucking talented.
But they make missiles.
They make missiles and drones and shit over there. I don't fucking know. The Houthis.
Highly sophisticated, and they're very tough, but they've been very badly damaged. Nobody else was able to do that but us. Pete, you want to discuss that, please?
Yes, sir. It's been a bad 3 weeks for the Houthis, and it's about to get worse. It's been a devastating campaign, whether it's underground facilities.
Okay, Binky. It's been bad. It's like some little fucking club of fucking emotionally uninvolved men, right? Adolescent men.
Weapons manufacturing, bunkers, troops in the open, air defense assets.
Well, at least leaking information to, a liberal reporter. I mean, it's been a great 3 weeks, a hard 3 weeks for the Houthis.
Not going to relent, and it's only to get more unrelenting until the Houthis declare they will stop shooting at our ships. And we've been very clear at the Iranians as well. They should not continue to provide support to the Houthis, and that message has been made very clear. So we have a lot more options and a lot more pressure to apply, and we know, because we see the reports, how devastating this campaign has been in them, and we will not.
It's been so devastating, so totally devastating when we leaked it to a reporter. It's pretty devastating to the Houthis.
We have a great military. There's no military like our military, and despite Biden having given a lot, but nevertheless a pretty small piece, but it was a lot of our military away in Afghanistan, and one of the dumbest situations, I think, and maybe the most embarrassing situation we've ever been involved in.
He's going back to Biden. I guess, get a room. You love him, don't you? You love Biden. You talk about it all the time, just like they all love Trump, right? Biden is Trump's Trump, right? Everyone else has Trump to talk about and obsess about, all these liberals and Democrats and Hollywood people. But Trump has Biden that he's obsessed with.
That short period of time in Afghanistan, what a disgrace that was, but left a lot of our military behind. Left. You see them in their annual parades where they're parading trucks that are armor plated and different things that they can't. But it's many billions of dollars we left behind. But despite that, we have a tremendous military. That was a very small portion because we rebuilt the military during my first term, and we have great things happening with our military. We also essentially approved a budget which is in the facility. You'll like to hear this, of $1 trillion, $1 trillion.
You like to hear this because a bunch of that money is going to be spent benefiting you, Master. You're going to be happy with this, Master, right?
And nobody's seen anything like it. We have to build our military, and we're very cost conscious, but the military is something that we have to build, and we have to be strong because you got a lot of bad forces out there now. So we're going to be approving a budget, and I'm proud to say, actually, the biggest one we've ever done for the military. We're cutting other things that were...
like schools and education and food stamps and, all these things that people need. But we're going to spend more on our military-industrial complex and more for Israel because we're going to be in World War III pretty soon. So we better fucking tighten our fucking belts.
Under Doge, but under a lot of other... When you look at a woman getting $2 billion for environmental, and it had nothing to do with environmental, and they had
that money could easily be going to our military-industrial complex. So fuck that environment shit.
Dollars in the bank, and they give her $2 billion. Many of those cases, all that stuff is going to be cut out, but we are getting a very, very powerful military. We have things under order now, the likes of which we've never had before. We've never had the kind of aircraft, the kind of missiles, anything that we have ordered, and it's in many ways too bad that we have to do
it. You got it on Amazon. We ordered a bunch of this shit on Amazon, waiting for it to come. It's it's overnighted, and we're gonna get it in there.
Because hopefully we're not going to have to use it, but
we will use it if we have to. We're going to use it. Hopefully we won't, but we will.
The military is very, very powerful, and it's going to remain that way.
How do you...
Boom. All right, this is why he starts taking questions.
Mr. President, do you please?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to ask you about Iran because this is the first time we hear that the U.S. is having a direct contact with the Iranians. Is it possible to give us some more information at what level the U.S. is represented?
High level, very high level.
High level, the highest of levels.
We're dealing with the Iranians. We have a very big meeting on Saturday, and we're dealing with them directly. A lot of people say, oh, maybe you're going through surrogates or you're not dealing directly, you're dealing through other countries. No, we're dealing with them directly, and maybe a deal is going to be made. That would be great. It'll be really great for Iran, I can tell you.
I tell you, if they get that deal, it'll be good for them because fucking otherwise, we're going to destroy that motherfucking country.
But hopefully, we're not going to have to get into that. We are meeting very importantly on Saturday at almost the highest level, and we'll see how it works out. Please.
How do you ensure, Mr. President, that these tariffs don't drive U.S. trading partners into the hands of the Chinese?
I'm not worried about it.
It's already happened. I showed you this yesterday with Free Zakaria. There's 6 trade deals. 4 of them go through China, where China's the hub, and 2 of them are from the U.S., so it's already happened. Like, he's saying this isn't going to happen, but it is. Even if he gets some kind of deals, some kind of thing where they make some concessions just to stabilize this because he's fucking everybody with these things, they're going to say, all right, well, we'll give you a deal today, but we're working towards getting rid of American dependence. We're going to start making deals with other countries. We'll get some other country involved in NATO. We'll make deals with China, Russia, or whatever it is. So if it's the time of fuck America, right? We live in the fuck America time. And, Trump is pushing this. And it's not just because of Trump. It's because of the fact that he got elected. Like, he's the American's choice. And he's doing all this shit. Americans can't be trusted. And America's already, America is resource heavy for very little production in terms of the kind of people we are and what we're doing for the rest of the world. We become a cancer on the world economy. And they know this, and they have to get rid of it. That's why I've been saying for years that America has to go. Like empires just have to go. And it's all the reasons that entitlement, all the things you see around you. It's all the bad qualities, all these things.
And they want to be in the hands of the U.S. They don't want to be in the hands of the Chinese. And the Chinese have turned out to be really not very good at that. People that are with us, they're with us. But we cannot be taken advantage of any longer. I used to watch these deals for years. I've been talking about it for years. I've been talking about it for 35 years, how our country is being ripped off. I mean,
We've been every which way we've been ripped off. They're stealing from us, these motherfuckers.
30 years ago it was Japan, then it was something else, then it was another group, then it was China. China's doing the best job of it, frankly. And it's just not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Not going to happen. Okay.
One thing he may not know, we have more energy than any country in the world. We have more of every kind of energy, every form of energy, from oil and gas to coal. And people talk about, I call it beautiful, clean coal.
Beautiful, clean coal. My wife recently went to this coal, there was some kind of a museum exhibit. She was telling me about that the coal, they used to, they have these policies where they pay you like for a truckload of coal, like 75 cents, back in the day when money had more value. But they give you a voucher and you had to buy everything from the coal store, including what you used in the coal mine, shovels and things. If shovel broke, you had to go in debt. And so they were mostly in debt to the coal, had their own stores, the coal companies. And they had these devices that would register if there was like dangerous gas and it was something that was detrimental to people. And the devices would often blow up. So they've created new devices that are more expensive, but they're still using the old ones because they're too expensive to use. And so, the coal mine is one of the worst. Black lung, people who suffer from coal mining. And then there's the pollution that coal does, right? So, it's not a great thing. You might say it's necessary to keep a dysfunctional country going, but polluting the world and fucking future generations and generations of ourselves as we reincarnate back into this hellhole, and him just destroying it for a bunch of fat fucking ghoulish motherfuckers who don't enjoy their lives as they destroy the world, right? As we stuff our ghoul holes with resources and don't even, we're not even happy, never mind doing what we're supposed to be doing here. And so,
As you know, Germany is opening up a coal plant a week. They tried the windmills and it didn't work. They tried all the other solutions and they were ready to go out of business. Now they're doing a coal plant a week. China is now up to 2 coal plants. They're opening 2 major coal plants every single week in China, all over China.
So they're 100 a year? Is that what they're doing?
China, and then we're not allowed to use coal. Well, we have clean, beautiful coal more than anybody else. We have
clean, beautiful coal. Coal is the epitome of dirty, right? If you pick up coal, it leaves residue on your hand. It looks like dirt, right? It looks like charcoal, it's black. It's not a
oil and gas more than anybody else. We have the most energy of any country in the world, including Saudi Arabia, including everybody, by a lot. And I took it to number 1. We were number 3, and I took it to number 1 during my administration.
Now I'm doing a number 2 right on America with these tariffs.
And the reason that we were hurt so badly and the reason that we went into such incredible inflation during Biden is energy. It was also their bad spending, but energy. Because they played around with this incredible thing that we had built, this administration had built, and the energy costs went through the roof. And when that went up, everything else followed. Now, if you look at what's happening, you got to see this today. I said we're going to try and get groceries down, right? An old-fashioned term, but a beautiful term. Eggs. So when I got in, the press went absolutely crazy the first week. They said, eggs have quadrupled in price. I said, I just got here. Tell me about it.
Tell me about it. I just got here. What about eggs?
And Brooke Rollins and our team did a great job, and eggs are down now 79%. And
The only reason eggs are down, and they're not really, is because chickens lay more eggs in the springtime, right? There's, it's more conducive to eggs. It's harder to get them to lay in the winter, even with lights and all the things that they do, right? So, and then we know what's going to happen to the economy with these fucking tariffs and prices. I mean, it's already done.
They're all over the place. And this was a problem that somebody else would have taken a long time to cure.
Not me, not Trump. I get things done immediately.
We have energy is down. We have interest rates are down. We have groceries, meaning food is down. We have everything is down at levels that nobody ever thought possible.
Yeah. You're just making shit up, right?
Energy looks like it's going to be in the $2.50.
Like people know when they go to the grocery store, prices have not come down, right?
A gallon range and maybe below that for a car. So for gasoline. So
And there's going to be foods that start disappearing. You're going to see the foods that are coming from other countries. We get a lot of food from Mexico. We get food from Canada. And they're going to start disappearing. Anything that has a tariff is going to be really expensive. And you're going to notice the differences right away.
we're really doing amazing. I mean, we're cutting
We're the best ever. It has nothing to do with me. It's just I'm the guy.
prices because prices got so high people couldn't live. I mean, the prices for groceries, the prices for standard groceries, standard things were going through the roof. They couldn't live, and now those prices are coming down. So call them groceries, but that's down, energy's down, and interest rates are down. Everything's down, and the interest rates, the beauty there
Stock market's down, like significantly. It's all down.
is when we refinance debt. You know, debt's become such a big factor in this country. We're going to start paying debt off with tariffs and other things, but it's such a big factor because the interest rate's so high. Well, now that's coming way down, so our budget's going to look a lot better because interest costs are way down. And I guess I've done that.
I guess I did. I mean, somebody did it. I guess it's me. Like, that's the delusional world he lives in. Even with all the evidence, like groceries are going up. They have to. You know, all the food that you're getting in your store that's imported, it's less so in the winter, but there's still a lot of things that you get that's imported. And once those, those foods either disappear or the prices go up astronomically because of the tariffs, and then things, when they do disappear, there's no competition, so the supply goes down, demand goes up. All these things are going to go up, and they have to. I mean, all the imported foods, lots of imported foods, whatever amount of food, in an average grocery store. I mean, let me go check that out. I just asked the AI about this, and it said that 15 to 20% of all foods in America are imported, but 35% to 50% of the produce. That's where you see it in the produce, right? A lot of the stuff coming from Mexico or hot places, places where, especially in the winter, where America is, you can't grow things outside. Everything has to be grown in greenhouses. Prices go up. Tomatoes. I saw that there was these organic tomatoes that were non-existent in Whole Foods I looked at yesterday, and they came from Canada. So, these things are just going to either disappear or going to be like priced so high you won't be able to afford them, right? So, that's where we're at. And produce is a big deal. Like, it's a big deal to me. We eat a lot of salads. I mean, it's healthy food. I mean, they're going to process foods and things with corn and corn syrup. You're going to have all this shitty food, right? You're not going to be able to get lots of the fresh foods and things. I mean, 50% in some places is imported, and then there's going to be, like I said, supply goes down, the demand goes up, and prices go up. So, like, he's fucking oblivious to this. I mean, it's already going to kick in, and like right now, it's getting warmer, and things are being grown in California and Texas and Florida and these southern states, and so some of these things can be imported. I mean, can be, will be there in the grocery store, but all these other things won't be. And then if these things are still going by next winter, they'll be just completely depleted.
Many Israelis are watching you now on live show. Good. What is your specific way of getting the hostages out from the horrific captivity?
They got a lot of Israel reporters there.
Trying very hard to get the hostages out. We're looking at another ceasefire. We'll see what happens. But we want to get the hostages out. The Israeli people want the hostages out more than anything. They want the hostages out.
Do they? Is that what they want? Fucking do they? Or is it they want fucking to own the Gaza Strip? Right? I mean, is that what they want? Because I think it's what they want, the Gaza Strip a little bit more.
This man is working very hard with us to do that.
He is. He's working hard. Like the guy's just, I mean, tirelessly. He's just sitting there going, we need to get these hostages out. Go kill some more children, Palestinian children. Grab some more land, destroy some more buildings. Make it unlivable there.
I mean, I don't know. I hope he's being appreciated because he's been a great leader. He's working very, very hard on the hostages and many other things.
He works really hard. I'm working so hard. Like, what are you talking about working hard? What does that even mean, right?
And there are plenty of things you have to work on. It's a tough place in the world, isn't it?
I have a good partner.
Yeah, you do have a good partner.
I have a good partner. You, Mr. Trumps. Thanks, Master.
And so do we. We're working very hard on the hostages.
If you're going to negotiate a new deal with Iran, can you elaborate how it's going to be more effective than the JCPOA?
Well, I can't really say that, but I think it'll be different and maybe a lot stronger. But they were so happy when we made that first deal because we did get a lot out. You know, I had people right in this office, this beautiful Oval Office. They came in, 10 people, hostages, you know that. And I said to them, so how was it? And the stories they told me, I mean, as an example, I said to them, was there any sign of love? You were there, 10 people. It's only 10, but it's pretty representative. Did the Hamas show any signs of, like, help or
He asked about Iran.
liking you? Did they wink at you? Did they give you a piece of bread extra? Did they give you
Give you an extra slice of fucking bread, unleavened bread.
a meal on the side? Like, you know, you think of
They give you any matzah.
like what happened in Germany, what happened elsewhere. People would try and help people that were in unbelievable distress. They said no. I said all of them. I said, did they ever wink at you like you'll be okay?
They ever wink at you? He said this shit before. It was unbelievable. He's saying it again.
You're gonna be okay. No, they didn't do that.
They didn't even wink at you. They're not winkers. Hamas holes aren't winkers.
us.
Like, he's so fucking remedial in this. I mean, this is your fucking savior. These are fucking Trumpers, please. This guy's gonna save America. Was there any winking going on? Did they do any winking?
The hatred is unbelievable.
I mean, they don't even wink at you.
And the lives, you know, they lived in a pipe, not really a tunnel. It was a pipe.
It's a pipe. It's like a 1-inch pipe they squeezed in there.
And they always thought they were suffocating. They were going to suffocate. And then they'd open up the pipe, and it was like 3.5 feet high. This isn't, you know, we hear tunnels is bad, but pipes are worse. And
Tunnels are bad, but pipes are worse.
the stories I heard were incredible. But I just said, was there any sign of potential love or affection? And there were none whatsoever. It was
Unbelievable. These guys who are, Israel's decimated their country and encroached on their land, and they don't love them. They don't love these hostages.
amazing to me. There was nothing like, here, take this as a little extra meal or something. They lived like hell. I don't know. They were amazing to me because they seemed to be pretty normal. They weren't scarred.
It was almost like they weren't. It's kind of like my ear, you know, where I wear the bandage, but I really wasn't shot in the ear. It was kind of like they weren't even hostages before. They weren't even. It's almost like they were actors or something. Like I don't even know. It was so weird.
I guarantee underneath they have to be scarred. And one
They have to be fucked up underneath.
was there for 356 days. Another was there for about 180 days. You know, a long time. These are people that have been really, really horribly treated. I've never seen anything like it, actually. I was very surprised to hear the answer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Are there 2 or 3 countries that are on your list that you feel are farther along in getting their tariffs lowered?
I think there are many that want to get rid of tariffs right now. European Union, I mean, as badly as they've treated us, they've brought their car tariffs essentially off. I guess they brought it down to 2.5, and I hear maybe to nothing. But it's not only.
You hear that, or did it happen? Like you had voices telling you that, or is it actually reality?
Tariffs, it's non-monetary tariffs. It's tariffs where they put things on that make it impossible for you to sell a car. It's not a money thing. They make it so difficult, the standards and the tests. They drop a bowling ball on the top of your car from 20 feet up in the air, and if there's a little dent, they say, no, I'm sorry, your car doesn't qualify. When the same car from Germany or anything would dent likewise, unless you can have an army tank, it's going to dent. So they come up with rules and regulations that are just designed for one reason, that you can't sell your product in those countries, and we're not going to let that happen. Those are called non-monetary barriers. They make barriers that are so tough that it's impossible to qualify. So tariffs are a big part.
So the answer to the question is no. Nobody's coming to you saying they want to get rid of these tariffs. That there's no capitulation here. They're most a lot of fuck yous. Is that what you're saying?
But there's another big part of it, and that's barriers. They also do something else. They manipulate their currency, and they drive it down. They want to drive it. They want to have low currencies. You know, it sounds better to have a high currency, a strong dollar or whatever. But they bring their currency down, and when it competes with our currency, it's very hard to sell a tractor. It's very hard to sell.
Exactly. This is the whole thing because, you know, our currency, if it's devalued, then we can't import all of these fruits and vegetables and other things cheaply from China, and then the cost of living goes up for Americans. This is what's going to happen, you fucking moron. Like, that's the currency is the issue. They devalue their currency so they can pay their labor almost nothing because they got lots of people, and that they can make cheap goods and services. And people work hard because their currency's so devalued, they're so poor that they'll work hard for almost nothing, right? And so this is, and then also the trade imbalance. And if you raise the Chinese currency and you lower the American currency, you could have manufacturing, but Americans aren't going to want to do those jobs. Like, you're a fucking total moron. Like, anybody could understand this. It's very simple economic principles. It's not even economic principles. Like, these are the deals that are made. America and Europe buy things and are service-oriented. They buy cheap goods from poor countries that have a lower currency. And that's why Great Britain doesn't want American cars because, you know, when I stayed in England, we had a layover. We missed our flight. It was a whole fucking nightmare. We were coming back from India. And we stayed over for one day in England. And I couldn't believe how expensive everything was. It was, like, much more expensive. I mean, whenever I'd gone to Europe, there's this, price shock, sticker shock, because everything's so much more expensive. Because Europe has high currency and the dollar's devalued. But when you go to India, the currency is very, higher. The dollar's worth a lot more. And you can buy all kinds of things for cheap. So this is how it works. And there's so many people there. They have manufacturing. There's these countries that keep their currency low. Others keep their currencies high. But if you reduce the value of the dollar, Americans can't buy shit, right? They can't buy cheap Chinese goods anymore. Everything from China now what used to cost $5 costs $20. Especially, foods. And so, like, he doesn't fucking get any of that shit. So prices have to go up.
Product, because their currency is low and ours is much higher, relatively. And so it makes it very hard. I speak to a lot of companies that do business, tractor companies, and I
speak to tractor companies, the tractor ones, guys who make tractors.
It's so hard to sell because what they've done is they've lowered the yen or they've lowered the yuan or they've lowered their currency so that it's very hard to compete. We don't want that either. So we have a lot of things that...
He doesn't understand what happens if you raise the Chinese currency. If the Chinese currency, if the yuan had the value of the dollar, then American prices would skyrocket. Like, everything would be 10 times what it is now. It's fucking, you're a moron to think that could be fixed in America's favor. He doesn't understand the basic system here, this basic global system.
We're talking about, but we're going to fix it properly, and it's going to be fair to everybody. And in the end, I think we're going to have a world that does a lot better, but they have to respect the United States. And nobody but me would do this. Nobody but me would do this. It would be nice to serve a nice, easy term, but we have an opportunity to change the fabric of our country. We have an opportunity to reset the table on trade. We lose billions of dollars. We lose close to $2 trillion a year on trade. We lose $1 trillion a year to China.
China.
$1 trillion. We lose
China.
hundreds of billions of dollars a year on trade to China. We lose hundreds of billions of dollars overall, probably close to $2 trillion. Why would we do that? Number one, why would we do that? And then you have to say, is it sustainable? Then you hear about all of the people.
You know, but again, this is what Fareed Zakaria was saying, that he's not taking in consideration software and movies and TV shows and content and companies like Netflix and things like this that are service-oriented that do business in these other countries. And so he's just talking about goods and services where, you know, America, we're consumers. We're eating 25% of the resource. So we can get rid of that, right? We can only eat what we have, which is 5% of the world's resources, you know, just what's in America. I mean, we're burning through, you know, energy and things like that. We could stop buying foreign energy, stop buying foreign foods, but the lifestyle would go down and the prices would go up. And so, you know, this is why there's globalization. And the morons, the Alex Jones morons and, you know, all these people who are against globalization, yeah, there's bad things with globalization, but this is, you know, if you take away these things, your lifestyle is going to change dramatically. And there's, you know, reasons to be connected. Because you take away these things, these deals, and then war is inevitable. Because why do you, you know, if you're not getting things from these other countries, these, you know, whatever happens in terms of this, you know, these trade deals, then, you know, you'll just go take them, right? And so, like, the whole thing, he's just a moron. He knows nothing about how any of this works and how destabilizing it. You know, this thing I read to you the other day where this guy's got contracts with China where he can't manufacture in America because he's manufacturing this stuff over there. And he's got inflexible contracts with Walmart and, like, Costco and these box stores. When the tariffs hit, he has to absorb the cost. He can't pass it on to his vendors and his consumers, right? His stores and his consumers. But he's going to go out of business, and then his shit will be bought by some corporation who will either wreck the thing, or he might even be bought by some Chinese corporation. Who knows what happens with his whatever he's selling, or it just disappears from the store, which creates more demand, right? So and then that drives prices up. Like, Trump doesn't get any of these things. He doesn't care about it. He's got a bug up his ass about tariffs, and he thinks he can bully these countries with them. And, like, you know, it's just he can't.
People that say, well, deficits, if we have a deficit with the country, or if the country has a big surplus with us, like China has a massive surplus, that they take and they spend on their military. Well, we don't want that. I don't want them to take $500, $600 billion a year and spend it on their military. I don't want them spending money on their military. And I shouldn't have to spend money. We shouldn't have to spend it either. Because, you know, hopefully, and I said this to President Xi, hopefully it's money that we're never going to use. In other words, because we're not going to use those incredible weapons that we have and that they have.
Yeah, we're going to use them, all right? It's fucking coming. You're making it happen, you fucking moron.
We don't want that. So it's going to be very interesting. It's the only chance our country will have to reset the table. Because no other president would be willing to do what I'm doing or to even go through it.
Because it's fucking crazy, right? It's going to fuck up the whole thing. You know, it's a fucking fucked system. Whatever you want to say about the system, it goes against the divine will. Americans, I mean, just its effect on people is bad. But it's, you know, a debt-based economic system, and you got to rig the numbers, and, you know, it's not real. It's not based in anything that's natural or normal. So the system's fucked up. It's a dysfunctional system. But you know, with a dysfunctional family or a dysfunctional company, when you go in and try to make wide sweeping changes with people who are weakened, people who are depleted, people who are inflexible, people who have given all they can to a dysfunctional system, what happens is the system just dies. It blows up. And that's what everyone else kind of understands, that we're hanging by a fucking thread. He's trying to make it sound like, you know, America's in desperate straits, but the world's in desperate straits, and so is America. And so that's why you don't do anything fucking drastic, because it's like somebody who has, you know, 3 types of cancer and heart disease, and they're barely hanging on, they're terminal, and then you give them some fucking aggressive medication that just kills what's left of them, right? Because their body's too weak to absorb it. And it's not real medication anyway, some pharmaceutical bullshit and unnatural shit that you're trying to impose into a dying system, right?
Now, I don't mind going through it because I see a beautiful picture at the end. But
A beautiful picture of what, right? It doesn't exist in reality.
we are making tremendous progress with a lot of countries, and the countries that really took advantage of us are now saying, please negotiate. You know why? Because they're getting beat.
This is when I turned it on. I was watching the news yesterday. So this is the part with Iran's coming up that I want everyone to hear.
Badly because of what's happening. They're getting beaten badly. They're being devalued as countries. But it's the only chance we're going to have to reset the table on trade. And when we do, we're going to come out unbelievably well. We're going to have a strong country economically again. And we're going to have those
We have the number one economy now, asshole.
factories that are empty all over the United States. We've lost 90,000 plants and factories. Think of this, 90,000, you wouldn't think it's possible. 90,000
You wouldn't think it's possible.
plants and factories since NAFTA, which was, by the way, the worst trade deal ever developed, ever had by any country anywhere, NAFTA. And I terminated NAFTA. Everybody said it would be impossible. And I terminated it through Congress. We terminated it. You had to get it through Congress. It was a trap. It was a horrible thing. And we got it done. And we went to the USMCA, which was much better. The problem is they cheat. They cheat like crazy.
They're cheaters. They're lying, fucking, thieving cheaters. All these countries, these people that are our allies, like Canada and Europe.
Canada cheats. Mexico cheats. Just one of those things.
They're cheaters. We got cheaters above us and cheaters below us. And here I am stuck in the middle with you.
But we are resetting a table, and we're going to have great trade, and we're going to have a very strong country. Our country is going to be at a level that has maybe never been, or maybe, you know, our country was the strongest, believe it or not, from 1870.
Believe it or not, right now we have the number one military and number one economy. What the fuck are you talking about? Listen to this motherfucker, right? This moron.
We're going to have a very strong country. Our country is going to be at a level that has maybe never been, or maybe, you know, our country was the strongest, believe it or not, from 1870 to 1913. You know why? It was all tariff.
Because that's when they did the Federal Reserve Bank, right? That's when they did the Federal Reserve Bank. And so, like, this 1913 is when the Federal Reserve was created. And then the debt-based fiat currency came afterwards, the Depression, and that's what happened. The Federal Reserve has benefited Trump because he likes to borrow money. These rich people like to borrow money and do these things. He's a debt-based person. That's why he went bankrupt, right? Because he did those things. And without the money, you can't have the kind of economic growth. That's the one good thing the debt-based currency does. It gives you the money beforehand. You can borrow the money before you do the work. Whereas a normal type of economic system, you have to do the work first and build and create something and then get rewarded from your output. But now you can borrow money and create a factory and create a business before you've done any of the real work, right? But sometimes they fold and you fail. And Trump, would, for a guy who going bankrupt is like an anti-tariff thing. It's not taking responsibility. It's cheating. Going bankrupt is fucking cheating. You acquired these debts and then you fucking don't pay these debts, right? So let's go back to that thing here. 3220.
Strongest, believe it or not, from 1870 to 1913. You know why? It was all tariff-based. We had no income tax. Then in 1913, some genius came up with the idea of let's charge the people of our country, not foreign countries that are ripping off our country. And the country was never relative.
Because of the fucking Federal Reserve and the change in the fiat currency. Admit it. Like, say that shit. That's what caused it. And you're not getting rid of that. You're not getting rid of the Fed. You're not getting rid of the debt-based currency. You're not going to make it a gold standard currency. And you can't. If you did that, everything would collapse. It wouldn't be enough money. And so, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You're like a complete moron.
It was never that kind of wealth. We had so much wealth, we didn't know what to do with our money. We had meetings, we had committees. And these committees worked tirelessly to study one subject. We have so much money. What are we going to do with it? Who are we going to...
What are we going to do with all this money? I don't know. It's such a fucking problem. let's turn it into fiat currency and create a Federal Reserve Bank and fuck that all up.
Give it to. And I hope we're going to be in that position again.
Yeah, we're not. Like, you fucking, it's 1913, bro. That's nothing. That's not going back to that.
Mr. President, do you plan to reduce the tariffs that your government put on Israeli goods, 17%?
On where?
On Israeli goods, the 17%.
This is a great moment here.
Do you plan
Well,
to
we're
reduce it?
talking about a whole new trade. Maybe not. Maybe not. Don't forget, we help Israel a lot. We give Israel $4 billion a year. That's a lot. Congratulations, by the way. That's pretty good. But we give.
Congratulations. You hear that shit? That was wonderful. Talking to your master there, acknowledging. I mean, you're talking about trade deficit. We're straight up giving them fucking money and weapons.
Well, we're talking about a whole new trade. Maybe not. Maybe not. Don't forget, we help Israel a lot. We give Israel $4 billion a year. That's a lot. Congratulations, by the way. That's pretty good.
$4 billion a year to Israel. And he's like, good job. Congratulations. You scammed us out of money. Good job. Here, okay, let me tickle your balls.
But we give Israel billions of dollars a year. Billions. It's one of the highest of, and we give a lot of countries money. You wouldn't believe if I said we give Afghanistan a lot of money, do you? Because that was a Biden deal, another Biden deal. Not only did he embarrass us with that, but they give them billions of dollars, Afghanistan, right? So, but no, we take good care of our friends, and we don't take care of our enemies. We're not taking care of our enemies anymore, but we do take care of our friends.
Boom.
Mr. Berman for the Times of Israel. The IDF is fighting again in the Gaza Strip. I myself might be called up in a month. Do you think that's the way to pressure Hamas to get to a deal? And do you think blocking humanitarian aid is also an effective pressure tactic?
Well, you know how I feel about
That
that.
guy's from a Jewish Israeli paper. He's asking a quality question.
Gaza Strip. I think it's an incredible piece of important real estate, and I think it's something.
Incredible piece of important real estate. Not a country, a homeland that was given to these people. This is a fucked up exchange here.
That we would be involved in, but having a peace force like the United States there, controlling and owning the Gaza Strip would be a good thing. Because right now, all it is for years and years, all I hear about is killing and Hamas and problems. And if you take the people, the Palestinians, and move them around to different countries, and you have plenty of countries that will do that. And
no, they won't. Nobody wants them. And you have to sweeten the deal in some way. You have to give them money. You think they just want? Nobody wants immigrants of people who have very little resources coming into your country. Nobody wants that. I mean, you want to strengthen our border. You expect all these countries to take in these Palestinian people when there's so many of these refugees going to Europe and these other countries because the Middle East is just fucked over, right? What are you talking about?
You really have a freedom zone. You call it the freedom zone, a free zone, a zone where people aren't going to be killed every day.
It's a freedom zone. We're going to make sure that Israel doesn't kill any more people with the fucking four. What you could do is just say, hey, we're not going to give you the $4 billion this year, and we're not going to support you militarily. Stop fucking killing people in Gaza Strip. Stop fucking murdering people with this bullshit excuse of Hamas and hostages. And because you want the land. You're not getting that fucking land. So you either just go back to your fucking country and we'll give you the money and you stop fucking trying to expand. But he's not going to do that because he's owned by fucking Israel, right?
A hell of a place. It's you know what I call it, a great location that nobody wants to live in because they really don't. And
it's location. We got to get rid of those people so we can turn it into something good.
When they have good living, real living, where Hamas and all of the problems they have, the level of death on the Gaza Strip is just incredible. And
because fucking Israel has killed 40,000 people and destroyed their infrastructure and has been torturing these people in an open-air prison for years.
I've said it. I don't understand why Israel ever gave it up. Israel owned it. It wasn't this man, so I can say it. He wouldn't have given it up. I know him very well. There's no way. They took oceanfront property and they gave it to people for peace. How did that work out? Not good.
It's crazy. That's his fucking... he doesn't know fucking anything, right? He doesn't know anything. So you had a country called Palestine that was owned by Great Britain. And the Rothschild banks and other, institutions was pushing for a land that would be called Israel. And they were talking about giving them some piece of Africa. Like there would be some land in Africa and all the Jewish people get to move there. But somehow they said, well, let's make it in the so-called Holy Land. And they took Palestinian land that was this country called Palestine that was, kind of a contrived country. Remember, there was supposed to be this great exodus from the land of Israel. Like all the Jews left. It's in the Old Testament, the biblical, version of this story. But wherever it was, there was more Arabs living here, more Palestinians living there than there were Jews, like 3 or 4 times as many. And the Palestinians were somewhat good to the Jewish people. They weren't, they were lived in somewhat harmony. But because of the Rothschild banks, they pressured the UN to partition the country, and they brought they airlifted a bunch of black Jews from Africa and brought all these people in to get the numbers up, right? And so they gave the Jews all the good land, and the Palestinian land was separated into these various parcels. And then if you look at the map, there's pictures of it. I'll go to that when I take a break here, which you guys have probably seen over and over again. What it was in 1945 when they made Israel and Palestine into 2 separate things. Trump thinks the Jews owned all of Israel and decided out of the goodness of their hearts for peace to give the Palestinian people the Gaza Strip. He thinks that's what he thinks. Like, no matter what your interpretation of the story is, and everyone has their different ways of viewing it, that fucking is the worst one. Like, that didn't happen at all, right? It wasn't that this whole place was called Israel and they carved out a little place for the Palestinian people because they wanted peace. Like, he doesn't know what fucking happened. He knows nothing about this, but he wants to, turn it into, let's see what he wants to turn it into here. So this is from 1945 when they did this partition and split up Palestine into 2 separate countries. And this is from 1945 to 2000. So you can see everything was Palestine, and then it was divided. Israel just took more and more over of Palestine. And they continuously encroach on Palestinian land. Israel almost immediately started to take land. And they were kicking Palestinian people out of their homes. Like this was, when it was this, the Palestinian people were wealthy and they had all these beautiful homes. And then they turned to this and Israelis were coming in, kicking them out of their homes, and it's a whole thing. And then Israel got an army and the Palestinians got nothing. Israel got military and Palestinians got rocks. And so this is what ended up fucking happening. It's not debatable. Like this is, it started off as this, then they turned it into this, and it then eventually became this. And then Trump wants to make it into this, right? Like this thing. And like this was a spoof video that Trump, that they did just to test out this technology. And somehow Trump got a hand on it. It's supposed to be spoofing what he said. And Trump is looking at this guy fucking, these guys are bearded dudes dancing, big Trump balloon. And Trump, like he doesn't even know that he's being spoofed. And he put this up, right? Like this is what he thinks it can be. This beachfront property, this beautiful blue water. Them dancing, Elon Musk with the money, fucking Gaza Strip, guy with the hummus, fucking big Trump statue, Trump dolls everywhere, and fucking these 2 fat fucks sitting by a pool. And Trump thinks this is good. And this person writes, Trump, I voted for you to have a better economy, better laws, and take care of our country. Stay focused on the future of our nation, and don't create obstacles in other countries. Let's stay focused on making America great again. Yeah, if you're full of shit, if you think that's what's going to happen. You lost me with this dystopic and creepy. Gaza Plaza, Gaza Front Plaza. So that's what he wants to do, right? I mean, he's oblivious. Like, he just doesn't get it. Like, the guy, he's no genius. He's not anything but a stupid moron who thinks he knows things and is arrogant. He knows fucking nothing, right? I would say, like, if he knew nothing, it would be better. He knows stuff, but it's all wrong. Everything he knows or thinks he knows is wrong. So that's fucking Trump.
And so I can say it. He wouldn't have given it up. I know him very well. There's no way. They took oceanfront property and they gave it to people for peace.
Does that sound like Israel? Does that sound like something they would do?
How did that work out? Not good.
Is the immigration, sorry, Mr.
You know, they've taken, they haven't given.
President, is the immigration plan still on the agenda?
Which immigration?
From Gaza. From Gaza.
All it is a concept that I had that I think is good, and now people are copying it. You know, baby, do you want to?
People are copying my concept of taking these people and doing mass ethnic cleansing from the country and dumping them in other countries that don't want them. What is it, 2 million people?
People are talking about the Trump plan. Gee, why don't we do that? Would you like to answer that question?
I think what the president talked about is, first of all, to give people a choice.
Give them a choice. So after we bomb the shit out of them and wreck their homes and their lives and kill their kids, and give them a choice to leave or not, and go to be some other country that isn't their home, that doesn't want them, but they're going to live in poverty and be miserable the rest of their life. We're giving them a choice.
You know, Gazans were closed in. And every other place, including in arenas of battle, I mean, whether it's Ukraine or Syria or any other place, people could leave.
But not that easily. What are you talking about? You know, people could leave. They can't leave. The Palestinian people are boxed in because Israel's fucking trying to grab all their land and take it from them, and the countries on the borders are closing the borders. Israel's boxed in. Israel's surrounded by people that hate them, that are in a beef, that have, you know, 1 billion Muslims, and there's, what is it, like a million or so people in Israel, and the only reason they can exist is because they're heavy-duty military and they're backed by America. Like, they're boxed in. Like, they shouldn't be there. By the same standard, they don't belong there either because they have no future. They have enemies surrounding them. People hate them, and it's just getting worse with all these actions that are being taken and things that are being done to the Palestinian people. And they have enemies on top of their, like Iran isn't bordering Israel, but they're right there, right? And so he's saying they're boxed in. I mean, like, this is some bullshit here.
That. Would you like to answer that question?
I think what the president talked about is, first of all, to give people a choice. You know, Gazans were closed in. And every other place, including in arenas of battle, I mean, whether it's Ukraine or Syria or any other place, people could leave. Gaza was the only place where they locked them in. We didn't lock them in.
Yeah, you did. You know, they took the Palestinian land, and you've pressured them. Like, you know, like, it's just, I mean, they're being an abuser and being a fucking, a war criminal, and then just saying, I don't know, we didn't do this to them. They did this to themselves.
Locked in. And what is wrong with giving people a choice? Now, we've been talking, including over lunch, about some countries, I won't go into them right now, that are saying, you know, if Gazans want to leave, we want to take them in. And I think this is...
Is Israel one of those countries? Is it America? Who is it, right? Name the fucking countries. What are they going to use? What are they going to do with 2 million poor refugees? Like, who wants that?
This is the right thing to do. If you give, you know...
It's the right thing to do, but why don't you do it? Like, you're taking their land, right?
Take years to rebuild Gaza. In the meantime, people can have an option. The president has a vision. Countries are responding to that vision. We're working on it. I hope we'll have good news for you.
I will say people really do love that vision.
No, they don't. The Palestinian people do, and anybody with a heart and a sense of fairness wouldn't love that vision. Jesus Christ.
It's a long-term vision, but so importantly is to have that be a safe field, because you're right smack in the middle of the Middle East. You're right along Israel. It should have never, ever been given away. It shouldn't have been given away by Israel. I don't know why they did it. I mean, I do know why, because they were promised peace, but that didn't work out too well. Because
they didn't give that. It wasn't like Israel owned this land. It was called Palestine. Like, he knows nothing of this thing. He thinks that the Israeli people gave Palestine away, gave the Gaza Strip to the Palestinian people because they're so generous and they wanted peace. And they thought it would be a peaceful solution. Like, he knows nothing about the history of here. Nothing. And he's making bold proclamations and wanting to turn it into a resort. He knows nothing like fucking about anything. Like, he's just incurious. He says stupid shit all the time because he doesn't know anything. Like, what he knows is just fucking stuff he's made up on faulty information. in a bad memory. Like he's like as fucked as Biden is in the head. Like he's better at presenting himself. He doesn't seem senile, but he's just a bunch of gobbledygook going on in that fucking pea-sized brain of his. All his energy went into his massive hands. And he's got this.
It's one of the most dangerous pieces of land anywhere in the world. Gaza is one of the most dangerous places in the world.
Because Israel's killing people there. It's not anything other than what Israel's doing to them. He like has a totally warped view of what's happening here.
So they gave it away for a good intention, and it didn't work out that way. And a lot of people like my concept, but you know there are other concepts that
like everyone else in the room knows he doesn't. Everybody but him knows that he's full of shit. Like Netanyahu knows that that's not what happened. He knows about the whole partition and the whole thing that happened there, right? Like there's a fucking, it's in Wikipedia. All these people in his national security team, maybe everybody but Pete Hegseth, who's a drunken frat boy. I think the rest of them know. And then all the people in the media certainly know. And he's talking away, just embarrassing himself, like saying stuff like he doesn't know. This is one of the biggest conflicts in the world, one of the major conflicts that America's had to deal with in terms of this, the problems with the Middle East, the oil and Israel and all these issues. And he knows fucking nothing about it. And he's making these bold proclamations based on this complete dunce knowledge that he has.
like too, and there are some concepts I don't like. You know what I don't like? The way it is now, because right now it's a dangerous death trap, Gaza. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Can you talk a little bit about your potential meeting with Vladimir Putin? Do you still plan to meet with him? Could that happen in Saudi Arabia? And maybe you could elaborate as well a little bit on not providing tariffs on Russia, sir.
So the reason we're not talking about tariffs with Russia is because we're not doing business essentially with Russia because they're in a war. And I'm not happy about what's going on with the bombing, because they're bombing like crazy right now.
Bombing crazy bombs over there. I'm not happy with those bombs.
They're bombing. I don't know what's happening there. That's not a good situation. So we're meeting with Russia. We're meeting with Ukraine. And we're getting sort of close. But I'm not happy with all the bombing that's going on the last week or so. Horrible. It's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing.
Can countries negotiate to get below 10%?
In terms of tariffs?
In terms of tariffs, yes.
Look, we've been ripped off and taken advantage of for 40, 50, 60 years.
Well, it should be. Well, how many is it? Like, that shows you don't know shit, right? Is it 60 years? Is it 40 years? Like, it's math. You could find out when we started to get ripped off. You said 1913 is when they went off the tariff government, like when you mentioned the Federal Reserve, but was it after the Depression? Is it 100 years? Like, you say you know these things, but you don't know them if you're just saying, I don't know. Sometime 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, we started getting ripped off. 60 years, I don't know, some time ago.
And the reason we got ripped off and the way they did it was tariffs. They would charge tariffs, massive numbers of dollars. And when you look at China, when I took over...
See, this is what I've been saying about everything. The countries he's dealing with and people who are smart know he's full of shit. Only his dopey followers who are incapable of doing their own research or just listening to whatever he has to say, and they're wishing with wishful thinking and Trump derangement syndrome, and they're hoping that what he's saying is right and that he's actually sent by the Lord to save America. They're the only people that buy into this shit, right? And Fox News, who's going to promote its lies, and his moronic staff who know better than him, but still are going to go along with this bullshit, right? But they all know he's full of shit. He's just making things up. He's fudging the numbers. He's, creating a history that isn't real, and an economic view that disregards all the other aspects of the economy, like services and things that America is winning the trade deal on, right? We're the wealthiest country. We have to be wealthy for a reason. We're just the suckers that are getting robbed all the time, right?
It was at $507 billion they were making. I call it making. A lot of people say, oh, it doesn't mean anything. Having a surplus means a lot, in my opinion. It's almost like a profit or loss statement.
It is exactly like a profit or loss statement.
And when I took over, it was $507 billion that China was, this is originally, first term, and we were very, very tough on them because they were taking that money and they were building a military with it. Then when Biden came in, he let him get away with murder. He had no idea. I'll tell you what, that man had no idea what was happening.
That guy doesn't know anything. That fucking guy. Like, I know all this history. I mean, listen to what I'm talking about. Like, I have a fucking full grasp on the economy and history and all the rest of it. I'm not senile like that fuck.
The border or China or anything else. He had no idea what was going on. And they went wild. China went wild. And the money they make is...
China went wild. They had a fucking party on the Americans' dime.
It's ridiculous, okay? It's just not going to happen. And hopefully we'll get along with China. If we do, that's great. And if we don't, that's okay too. But we can't let that continue because that's...
It's not okay too because, you know, well, I can look at this real quick. So 42% of all of our goods are imported from China, but there's things that are manufactured in China that are not necessarily imports, that are American companies. So, like, we don't even know how much of, if Trump says, all right, fuck you, China, right? There's no longer going to be anything from China in America. And you can say that's a good thing because China's evil, whatever the fuck you think about it. But there's going to be a lot of things that you used to be using that aren't there anymore. Or they're going to be 4 or 5 times more expensive. So, you know, that's what we're talking about here. Like, in principle, it might be good to cut ties with China, but not practical, right? Not in terms of this, you know, this is a dysfunctional system.
It's an abuse. They abused the poor people that sat in this seat. That poor Biden, he was abused by them. They took
It's elder abuse.
Took advantage of him, and I'm surprised.
Yeah, he didn't do anything like have fucking deals with China ahead of time that Hunter Biden negotiated. Where the fuck was that? You were talking about that before. It wasn't abuse. He was owned by China the same way you're owned with Israel. Israel's abusing you right now. Fucking Netanyahu's spanking your fat bottom right now, bro.
You know, they have smart people. They were radical left lunatics, but they're smart. I'm surprised they'd allow that to take, you know, to happen. But we are going to bring great trade, and we're going to be fair to other countries. And I will say this, virtually every country wants to negotiate. If I didn't do what I did over the last couple of weeks, you wouldn't have anybody wants to negotiate. We would have gone to these countries, you want to talk? And they were, well, we don't want to talk. Now they're coming to us. They're offering things like even Bibi, and this is unrelated because it's a different kind of a relationship, but he started off our conversation today that he's cutting all of the tariffs, he's cutting everything, he's going to get down to a free base, he's going to do things that, in all fairness, other countries, if they said that, would have never even thought about doing it. Now they're offering things to us that we would have never even thought of asking them for because...
I didn't even know they could do some of the things that they're willing to do. Like, it's crazy. Like, they're stretching and they're doing yoga and they can do all kinds of things I didn't even know existed. What the fuck are you talking about?
They're experiencing a lot of hurt. And the hurt is that they've taken advantage of us and we finally fought back. Tariffs will make this country very rich. We're rich anyway, but we're rich in a certain way. We have $36 trillion in debt.
That's not rich. We're not rich. It's $100 trillion in total debt. And then there's just, I mean, it's beyond repair. Like, just admit we're fucked. And if you admit you were fucked, then you realize doing something like tariffs is just going to make things worse because it's not going to solve the problem.
I want to get rid of it, and we can do it quickly with proper deals. So when countries don't allow us to sell our product, but we allow them to sell their product, when they charge us massive amounts of money for the privilege of going into their country, those days are over.
You know, tariffs is a tax, and some of the tax is going to be paid by small businesses like that guy. I read that thing yesterday. I talked about that already, who has a deal with to manufacture in China and a deal with Walmart, and he's going to pay $1 million a week in tariffs, like something crazy like this. And he's going to go out of business because he doesn't have those kind of profits. So, like, it's a tax, and that money's going to go to the government, sure, so he can build more military bullshit things and do more bullshit things that are, they're not for our best interests. So he's just done a huge tax hike on all kinds of various entities, and mostly American people, American business. And so the money like a foreign country is going to pay, they're just going to raise the prices of the goods, and then they're not going to sell as many goods, but it's going to be passed on to the consumer. Like, he doesn't understand basic anything because he's just an uncurious fucking dope, right? A dunce.
Over. Okay. Go ahead.
Me?
Sure.
Me?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Iran, two questions.
This is the one here.
Please. First, if you can give us more details about where the meeting on Saturday is going to take place.
I can just tell you there's a major meeting going on between us and Iran, and that'll take place on Saturday, and it's at top level.
And the second question about this. A lot of people think that those talks are not going to lead anywhere because the Iranians will never give up.
All right, so this is an Israeli person saying that the talks aren't going to go anywhere. So then what are you going to fucking do, right?
I think that's a possibility too.
If diplomacy fails, is the United States under your leadership ready to take military action to destroy the Iranian nuclear program and remove this threat?
I think if the talks aren't successful with Iran, I think Iran is going to be in great danger. And I hate to say it, great danger, because they can't have a nuclear weapon.
So is that a yes?
You know, it's not.
Why can't they have a nuclear weapon? Israel has them, we have them. Like, we're such great people. No, fucking, we're better than them. We're responsible for the Iran. CIA wrecked Iran in the Operation Ajax, which we've talked about extensively, and the CIA admitted to this. And so, like, you have to look at the history of things. But he's saying they're in grave danger. So he is implying that, and of course he could be doing this to put a pressure on Iran or whatever it is. But if Iran says fuck you to him, and then they go to war with Iran, and then Russia gets involved, then we're in World War III. And then there's no turning back. And the terrorists and all this shit and the destabilization, Trump pissing off all his allies, all of these things, right? I mean, he's a fucking disaster. Right, he is a fucking disaster. And saying that Kamala Harris would be worse, well, you couldn't be worse than this, right? Regardless of what a dope she is. I mean, yeah, she would have been just as bad in a different way, but not worse. There's no worse. Like, there's no worse than Trump, right?
Not a complicated formula. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's all there is.
So
Can't have it. Right now we have countries that have nuclear power that shouldn't have it, but I'm sure we'll be able to negotiate out of that too as part of this later on down the line. But Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And if the talks aren't successful, I actually think it'll be a very bad day for Iran if that's the case. Yeah.
Boom. So these veiled threats, again, negotiation tactic. He's got like fetal alcohol syndrome eyes there. Possibly negotiation tactic, but he's floated this idea again. Do you want to have a war with Iran while the terrorists are going on? Like, how much fucking damage can you do while you're deporting people who don't deserve to be deported? I mean, you're like, he's all over the fucking place, right?
Mr. President, on manufacturing, Mr. President.
Mr. President, was October 7th the death blow of the two-state solution, and would you consider classifying the Palestinian Authority as a terrorist organization for its continued pay-for-slay terror financing payments?
So October 7th was a horrible day that some people, they deny it. Now, I can't believe they deny it from the standpoint of it. They do it because they think it's good politically. But I've seen the tapes. I've seen things that you don't want to see.
I've seen it. I like these. It's like horror. It's like war porn, and you guys wouldn't want to see it. I watch it every day, but you guys could never take it.
October 7th was a horrible day, and it will go down as one of the really bad days in the history of the world.
Okay, it was like 1,500 people allegedly died, and who knows what's up with that. But according to multiple sources, it's 40,000 Palestinians, and even Trump saying it's a death trap, and Beatty saying they've destroyed the country, and they're going to have to rebuild it. So we know that those numbers are more accurate. So Palestinian lives don't mean as much as Israeli lives, right? I mean, we've established that. With this whole thing, I mean, this guy's a fucking nightmare because he's doing shit out of complete ignorance. He's doing bold shit, not knowing any of the fucking how it'll affect the world or knowing what he's doing. He doesn't even say the words right. He's like, yeah, I don't know. Signal, it might be an app, or it might be a device, whatever you want to call it. No, it's an app. It's not a device and an app. It's one or the fucking other, right? Some people call it a device. Some people call it an app. Well, you know nothing about it. It's like that guy, the internet's a bunch of tubes, right?
It was a horrible, horrible thing that happened. And they grabbed some of these people. I'll give you an example. When I was with the 10 hostages a few weeks ago, I said, so how many are there? 59.
Why don't you go visit some of the Palestinian prisoners, or go visit Palestine and talk to the people about what the Israeli army did to them?
I said, oh, so 59, so we can get 59. They sort of knew the territory pretty good. And I said, how are they doing? They said, well, only 24 are living, the rest are dead. And these are young people largely. Young people don't die. Young people have...
What about the 20,000 Palestinian kids, right? Like, what about those guys?
An amazing ability to live. They can live through horrible things, but these are young people. And when they said that 24 are living and the rest are dead, and I've had parents come up, Israeli parents largely. We have some Americans, and I guess we have one left, Alex. We have the one left. But I've had Israeli parents come up to me at events and say, my son is there. I said, well, how's he doing? Well, he's dead. But would you do me the biggest favor ever? Could you bring his body back home?
Yeah, I'll go get my helicopter.
They talked about a young dead boy and a young dead girl like they were living. And that could have something to do with religion. That could have something to do with, I guess maybe any parent would be, but...
No, it has to do with their religion. They want their dead bodies back. It's the whole thing. I watched this movie I talked about. Sacha Baron Cohen played an Israeli spy that went to Syria and was in the highest level. He became the defense director of the Defense Department. Like, this is a real guy. And the Syrians found out about it. They tortured and killed him, and they have still not given his body back. It's a big thing for the Jews to get their bodies back. And it's a religious thing. Like, he should know this, right? Like, he should know more about this than I know. Like, he might have to bullshit and lie about things because he can't tell the truth, but he's not doing that. Like, he just doesn't know. Like, these people came up and said this thing to him, and he's like, I don't know what that's about. Well, why don't you find the fuck out? Why don't you ask one of your brilliant staff members, or why don't you look at fucking Wikipedia? He doesn't know shit. He's a complete dunce.
I was surprised. They said, sir, my son is dead. It is just as important to bring that body back home. I asked that question as if he were alive. So you have a lot of them dead, and we'll be able to bring them back. But it's a horrible thing that's happened. These are largely young people. Some old ones too, frankly. And
Jesus Christ.
Those people have lived in hell. When they came off, the second group that came out, they looked like they just got out of a concentration camp. They look exactly like...
Well, it's crazy. What do the Palestinian people look like? What about the so-called prisoners of war that are Palestinian people? Or the ones that are in Gaza Strip? I mean, like, they're the ones who are getting abused. The numbers are, like, so skewed. Just, cluelessness about this. Of course he is. Trump is just, he's an uncurious, like you said, he gets bored in these meetings. He doesn't want to know things, but he wants to make decisions based on no information, right?
Like the pictures that I see from the 1940s, the concentration camps. And then they got a little bit better, but that second group, those people came out and I said, this is unbelievable. We're going back into a chapter in history that is one of the worst ever. It's really very bad. Okay?
Mr. President, thank you. You've said it could take 2 years to get American manufacturing fully up to speed in response to these tariffs. What happens in the meantime? Should Americans be prepared potentially for years?
Yeah, I'll tell you what happens. We have now $7 trillion. Think of this, $7 trillion of commitments from companies.
Okay, so he's not going to answer this question. The question is, He's saying it's going to take 2 years for manufacturing to come back to America. And then, the profits to produce just to get the plants built and to hire everybody and establish an infrastructure and start putting things together, right? And train everybody and get all the equipment here. And so then you start producing whatever you're producing, cars or whatever else. And then you start selling those things to foreign countries now that are going to take them because you've pressured them with your tariffs. And at what point do the prices go down? Because, you've not taken any of this stuff into consideration. And he's not answering that question. What are the people supposed to do in the meantime?
Wanting to go in from Apple to many, many companies.
But that takes time.
Many from Taiwan. What?
It takes time to
Of course it takes. Well, are you asking me a question or are you telling me? Yeah, it takes time.
Netanyahu laughing. No, because you're not answering the question, you fuck. Because this is your job to address the American people and say, yeah, everything's going to be 4 times as your inflation's going to go up by 4 times as much for 2 years, and then it'll get better. And that's bullshit because it isn't going to get better. But we'll be fucking dead by then. World War III will be kicked in.
To build a thing called a factory, you have to build your energy. You have to do a lot of things. I'm giving them energy. We're going to let them build their own power plants. They'll be their own. Essentially, they're going to be in charge of the power plant because our power is not reliable enough. You have a grid that's old and susceptible to a lot of things, including bombing and weather and a lot of other things.
So they're going to have their own power plants, right? Because remember, the AI is going to have this massive power plant. That's where there's going to be nuclear power plants. How they're going to be, what are those things going to be?
And we're going to give them record timing in terms of approvals of electric plants. Most of them want to build electric plants. We need massive amounts of electricity if we're going to compete with China and others. And interestingly, we're way ahead right now in the AI race with China. But the way we lose that race is if we can't give them electric. But we
we saw this shit when you pulled that AI bullshit, right? But, this has nothing to do with any of that.
More plants being built. We have everything. We're doing so great. And we want to keep it that way. And
what about grocery prices for the next 2 years? You dumb fuck, right?
Tariffs will be an important part of it. But one of the other things, Lee Zeldin's doing a fantastic job, head of environmental protection. And he's doing very rapid approvals for people to get, for big companies that are going to build a plant.
That's going to destroy the fucking environment.
It's going to cost billions of dollars, and we're going to get them their approvals. They have to be environmentally perfect, everything good, but they're going to be in record time, a matter of months versus a matter of many, many years. Okay?
But in the meantime,
Lisa Rozowski from Haaretz. Turkey claims it will stabilize the situation in Syria.
Turkey?
Yeah. Israel doesn't want Turkey to influence Syria. What do you think? Do you think Turkey's influence in Syria can actually make it a better, more peaceful country? Or
why are you asking this, Mo? Point to Turkey on a map.
Vice versa.
Well, I have great relations with a man named Erdogan. Have you heard of him?
No, I haven't. I'm just a fucking reporter from Israel.
And I happen to like him, and he likes me, and I know the press will get very angry.
Sometimes we like to strip down to our underwear and wrestle with oil and shit on. We're just good buddies.
But I do, and he likes me, and we've never had a problem, and we've gone through a lot, and we've never had a problem. We've always gotten,
Just kidding, we don't wear underwear.
As you remember, we got our minister back from Turkey. You remember that? And this was a big deal at the time. And we got him back. And I told the prime minister, I said, just, baby, if you have a problem with Turkey, I really think I'm going to be able to work it out. I have a very, very good relationship with Turkey and with their leader. And I think we'll be able to work it out. So I hope that's not going to be a problem. I don't think it will be a problem. Now, with that being said, I believe it was Turkey, and I said that to him.
Right, so this is the last question. Well, we only got about a minute here.
I said it. I said, congratulations. You've done what nobody's been able to do in 2,000 years. You've taken over Syria with different names, but same thing. I said, you've taken it over. He's taken it over through surrogates. He goes, no, it was not me. I said, it was you. But that's okay. You don't have to say, well, sort of maybe it was me.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. But what he did, he's a tough guy and he's very smart. And he did something that nobody was able to do. You know, you got to hand it to him. Any problem that you have with Turkey, I think I can solve. I mean, as long as you're reasonable. You have to be reasonable. We have to be reasonable. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, press. Head out. Head out, press. Thank you.
It's doing the water sign full out. Look at these guys over here.
Thank you, press.
So that was that. Holy shit. You know, everybody sometimes in their life, maybe multiple times, maybe your whole life, you do things where you're locked into doing something without doing proper research, without reading the instructions, without thinking things through, without, you know, in some cases, the more severe cases, where people are telling you, hey, this is the wrong course of action, where nature and God are trying to tell you there's a wrong course of action. You might be even having dreams where you're being told, hey, motherfucker, stop what you're doing, right? And you do it anyway. You just are locked in, you're hell-bent in doing something. Even if you do research into it, like you're trying to, get support for doing your decision, you look for things that support what you're thinking, what you want to do, right? You're looking for, to be told, yeah, this is the right course of action. And so you're not really looking for alternative opinions or feedback. You're locked in. You're going to do what you thought you were going to do. And so you do what you wanted to do, and it ends up being a disaster. And that's what Trump does all the time. Like, he doesn't, he makes up his mind on limited information, wrong information. He always gets things wrong. And he's not thoughtful or curious, like I said, but even if he was, he doesn't look for the truth. He's the opposite of a truther. So he gets a little bit of information, and then he makes an arbitrary decision, an impulsive decision, which usually ends up in some sort of disaster, and he finds his way to blame other people and to con his way out of the circumstances and the results and the consequences. And it's just bizarre that he's been able to live his life this way. I mean, he's had some limited successes, but he keeps on getting bailed out. Like he was, the Apprentice show completely saved him. Like he was, ran his companies into the ground. He was bankrupt. And he got The Apprentice. He had all these things that happened to him. And he's like stumbled his way into a position that he doesn't deserve because of certainly he doesn't have any political success, but he really didn't have much business success either. He's really good at selling himself. He's really good at telling people what they want to hear. He came into politics at a time where the Republican Party is, with the internet being what it is, and the these Republican voters were desperate for somebody who would say the kind of things that Trump was willing to say and do the kind of things that Trump was willing to do, because they saw the country imploding. And so, this desperation that the Trumpers have, I mean, it's just it can't be an accident that all these things happen, right? But you got this bungling idiot who's just a moron who, bullshits his way through one mistake after another. And now he's making these impulsive decisions. And you can tell by what he says. In his speeches, he would bullshit a lot. And he would say lots of things. And what I said before he got elected, you don't know what Trump is going to do, because he says all kinds of shit that he can't do or wouldn't do, or he said he's going to do something he doesn't do. And he's making promises to people just because that's the kind of person he is. And then later on, he's told, oh, you can't do that, or he just, he forgets about it, or he doesn't care about it. So you never know what Trump's going to do. But Trump said a bunch of shit, and, like he said he really liked the word tariffs, and he'd done some tariffs before, but nobody thought he was going to do the kind of tariffs he was going to do. No one thought he was going to try to annex Greenland or Canada. Like, no one thought, like, he wasn't even saying these things. And he comes in, and he's, he fielded himself, and whatever happened during those 4 years of exile when he was being, all these fake lawsuits and criminal charges were coming up against him, and he was, planning his rise to political power again in his second term. And whatever's happened to him during this period of time, he's acting in a much different way than he did in the first term. And he's got all yes men telling him whatever he wants to hear. and nobody telling them this is a fucking bad idea. And this stuff is about, the consequences are World War III and economic collapse, both of which he's heading straight for. And, maybe by some, I don't know what I call miracle, because the country has to come down one way or another. It's God's will. But somehow these consequences might not be as bad as they could be. But either way, these are not successful actions. And he's just doing shit. Like, he's a guy who doesn't know anything or doesn't learn anything. He just does shit, right? Like, it's kind of funny, but it's not, right? So, the stuff he's talking about Gaza, I mean, this is going to affect people. The terrorists, people are going to starve. Kids are going to starve. There's going to be disastrous worldwide consequences for the destabilizing the global economy. And then World War III and all these things. I mean, real suffering is going to happen. And like I said, the system is demonic and it has to come down. And so, like, I mean, is he doing God's work? I mean, just as a bungling idiot? Like, I can't, not intentionally, certainly. But, with any kind of just limited fact-checking, and I don't mean going to Snopes or some bullshit fact-checker. I mean, just looking at things. One of my viewers, this is an example, this comment just came in. And let me see where it is here. I should have a screenshot. It came up on my phone. So this is in reference to, well, here it is. When I heard Trump say that there was going to be a new Honda manufacturer in Indiana, I looked it up to see if he was going to be near me. My husband is job hunting, and it's not even true. Honda said they are going to be moving its production of a certain car to an already existing plant in Greenberg. And so, Trump always lies and exaggerates, and like nothing you can say he says can be taken seriously. It's only the people who are desperate. And like I said just a little while ago, that you want things to go a certain way so you don't look at the opposing points of view. And so they'll just say anything that anybody says is fake news. And like that person who said to me, your Democrat is showing, and bullshit stuff like that, right? Because they can't handle the truth about Trump. It's so obvious. The guy doesn't fucking know any facts. Like, he's just not a fact-based person. But he talks like he knows things. And if you fact-check anything he says, it's all bullshit, right? And it's gotten way worse. His mind is deteriorated, and he's, whatever he is. He's always triggered or whatever's going on with him. And he's just completely myopic and hell-bent on his point of view when these things, and he has no idea what's going to happen. And when they start happening, he's going to take no responsibility for them. And he certainly isn't going to lead America out of the crises that he's creating. He'll probably curl up in the fucking fetal position and wonder why everyone's being so fucking mean to him. Because that's what he does. You guys are treating me very, very badly. Like he'll say shit like that, right? And so, the guy is, again, it's one thing to be this ignorant, but he's making major fucking decisions out of a place of ignorance. And, just bad, like complete ignorance. He's not even like somebody who guesses right. I mean, it's just one thing to be random, but some people are good at just, picking the right side, even though they don't look into it that much. But he's kind of the opposite. He's always on the wrong side of shit, and he's just like fucking horrible. And he, again, he's using these tactics to bully and do things and destabilize an already destabilized worldwide economic system and political and social system that's on the verge of fucking collapsing. So it's kind of hilarious, but like it's going to have real bad consequences. Like it's just, I mean, it's funny that a guy like this has gotten this kind of influence and power, and the powers that be want him to take down the world and the country because they know it's not sustainable. So, I mean, it's just he's there to be like this imbecile doing imbecilic things, moronic things, and then, with with no chance of success, and I mean, taking big swings at everything. Like everything he's doing is taking big destabilizing swings and going for it, and then just all the people that are surrounding him and all the systems that are in place can do nothing to stop him from wrecking the fucking country and the world. Kind of hilarious, but not when it all plays out. But we're in it now, so it's too late to turn back now. Only spirituality will save this world. This Paramount definitely pointing for the Apocalaughs and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day. and be grateful.